All right, well, welcome to today's workshop, How to Clarify Your Church's Digital Outreach Plan for 2026. And what we're going to be providing you with is a framework that you can use to help make your church more visible in your local community, as well as more hospitable to visitors, and also to have a good follow-up strategy in place. So I'm going to put some links in the chat that you can refer to. The main thing I want to draw your attention to is the first thing there is a workbook, and this goes along with the content of today's workshop. And toward the end of after going through the slides, and we'll kind of show you what's in that workbook. I definitely wanted to draw your attention specifically to that. And the Five More Talents team did a great job putting together these the slides and the workbook for today. So thankful for that. So just put a 1 in the chat if you're ready to dive in. All right, very good. Okay, so this is for you if you're a church leader, pastor, elder, deacon, and you're looking for greater faithfulness in the outreach of your church. You're allergic to gimmicks and marketing hype. This is for you. What we're about here at Five More Talents is advancing God's city. So that kind of sounds familiar. It is related to the great book, The City of God by Augustine, and just his focus on loving what God is doing in the world, the community that he's gathering from all tribes, nations, kindreds, and tongues, and local churches and communities throughout the world and throughout our country. And so that's where we're here, is to help churches come up with sustainable systems that help their churches become more visible in their community and invite more visitors to enfold more members into the life of the church, and then to develop more leaders over time as well. So if that describes you, then that's what this is for. And so, of course, our calling as church leaders is to make disciples. And as it says in Matthew 28, and you may notice some things that are missing from this verse, in the sense that the quote here doesn't say some other things. It doesn't, but we need to remember those things as well, right? So the Great Commission is about making disciples of all nations and baptizing them, but of course teaching them to observe everything Jesus has commanded as part of it. And of course, we have the promise that Jesus is with us, and also that all authority has been given to Jesus. And so one of our core convictions at Five More Talents is that when it says in the verse preceding this, where Jesus says, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth, that includes our church communication. It includes websites, social media, search engines, all of those things. And so our goal is to help the church obey the Great Commission faithfully, wisely, and without distraction. Obviously, we live in a digital age, and there's a lot of pathologies that come along with that, where people, spend a lot of time, maybe too much time in many cases, glued to their screens, glued to their phones, and so forth. But in God's providence, we also have this technology. And so our job is to help you use technology as church leaders in a very purposeful way to invite more visitors, to enfold more members, and to develop more leaders. So before we talk about the challenge, just put a 1 in the chat if that resonates, if anything that I said resonates with why you're here today. Are you looking to use technology for your church in a more purposeful way? Okay, great. So we're talking about the challenge and the opportunity. So the, the challenge today are many. There's many challenges today. Many people are isolated. Many people feel overwhelmed, disconnected. They're searching. It's one of the biggest challenges that pastors list when surveyed is that they find it difficult to connect with unchurched people in their community. A couple other challenges are finding volunteers and people to help in ministry are a couple of big challenges. So in terms of outreach, just connecting with people in the community is a major challenge. And then as far as the opportunity, people are searching. People are spiritually hungry. There's statistics, and we're hearing lots of anecdotes about how people in Gen Z, the 18 to 29-year-old age group, there's a lot of them that are coming to church for the first time, or coming to church for the first time in a long time. And so there's massive opportunity today, and there's just massive opportunity today. And I think we can all maybe think of examples of that opportunity. I was just interviewing somebody for a podcast the other day who just says, he just notices how so many people spend so many times on their smartphones, and the question is, are they, when they're spending that time on their smartphones, let's say they're someone who's 18 to 29, are they ever seeing anything about a local church? So there's a massive opportunity. I think we're all aware of just the great hunger that is among people in the younger generations, or really everywhere, for the gospel, just in the wake of current events such as Charlie Kirk's assassination and different things that have happened in our culture, where I think there's a massive opportunity for the church to develop robust ministries of outreach and evangelism. So if you all sense opportunities before you in your local churches, go ahead and type a 1 in the chat. All right, very good. So what we're going to cover today is setting faithful goals for the next 12 to 24 months. We're going to talk about some ways to think about stewardship, and we'll go through a simple self-assessment exercise, and then we'll talk about some specific things related to the website, search engine visibility, follow-up systems, and then culminating in a simple 4-part outreach action plan. So if you're ready to get started, go ahead and type a 2 in the chat. All right, very good. And just to reiterate, there's a number of resources today. I'm going to just specifically highlight the workbook. I'll bring this up on the screen in a little bit after we go through the slides, but there's a workbook that specifically goes along with this content and actually goes into more greater detail than in these slides. So let's dive in. So first one, what are your goals for local outreach? This can be a little bit difficult to think about in a church context. So it's in the sense of as churches, it's more about faithfulness and trusting the Lord with the results rather than necessarily achieving specific metrics. But there, it is true that, of course, presbyteries and denominations and churches do keep statistics. So I'm just going to kind of run through some ideas of of what some possible helpful goals might be, and if these goals are helpful to kind of get your wheels turning, then great. And if they're not helpful, then just disregard them. But here's some possible ideas as far as goals that you might think about. And as I go through these, if you think of something else or maybe one of these particularly resonates with you, just go ahead and put it in the chat. But one of them might be new people visiting for the first time. Maybe you have a goal of, the church is getting 1 or 2 visitors per week, and it would be great if the church was getting, 4 or 5 visitors per week. Or maybe it's very infrequent that your church is getting visitors, and you'd like to start, getting 1 or 2 per week. Maybe a goal would be spiritual conversations. How many spiritual conversations do you want to have, or what does that look like in a weekly rhythm? Maybe a goal would be related to sermon engagement, in terms of are people visiting the sermons page on your website? How many people are visiting, are seeing those sermons? Are there people actually from your local community that are actually seeing those sermons and engaging with those sermons? Maybe there's a lot of people in other parts of the country or world that are seeing the sermons, but maybe there's not that many from your local community. So if it's a goal of maybe 10 times the number of people locally hearing the sermons, then that would be a great goal that could be converted into a practical outreach plan. Another goal might be first-time visitors returning. One of the things we're going to talk about is follow-up and the value and importance of follow-up. And then maybe there's goals related to membership interviews or raising up leaders. So again, if some of these goals are helpful and maybe gets you thinking about things that either you're already thinking about or maybe gets you thinking in some new ways, then use them. If any of these things aren't helpful or don't seem relevant to your context, then just disregard them. Here's a few more, and these are more oriented towards things that we can directly track online or related to the website. Improved Google visibility. So as an example of this is maybe your church, when somebody searches for, say, Reformed Church near me, maybe your church doesn't show up in those top 3 Google search results, and you'd like for it to show up on that list. That would be a really great goal that you could set, and we could come up with a specific component of the outreach plan for that. Maybe you're already listed as number 1 Reformed Church when somebody searches Reformed Church near me. Maybe your church already shows up in the top spot, and so maybe improved Google visibility for your church would be church near me. Somebody's in your zip code and they search for church near me. What do you need to do for your church to get into those top 3 spots on Google? There's specific things that you can do. There's specific rhythms that you can get into that will help move your church in that direction. Another one might be consistent weekly sermon publishing. This is a great rhythm to be in, and some churches struggle with this, but that's one of the things that we help churches with, is actually coming up with a repeatable system and working the difficulties out of the process so that the sermon is being published consistently weekly. And then maybe some of them are related to follow up with visitors. And another goal would be just to clarify on the website and just in the church materials in general, what does it look like for somebody who's a visitor to actually become a member of the church? So there's things that can be done to clarify that. So again, if there's some useful material there, use it. If not, then maybe it's not relevant to your particular church. But it's good to just kind of start with some specific concrete goals. I've tried to list things here that I believe that it's possible to come up with a plan where there's specific action steps that the church can take that are aligned with those goals and specific rhythms that can be created. All right, so put a 2 in the chat if you're ready to talk about stewardship and budget. Put a 2 in the chat if you're ready to talk about this. And don't worry, I'm not going to get too detailed. All right, very good. What does wise stewardship look like? So outreach requires time. It requires tools. Online outreach, there's lots of different tools, websites, social media accounts, to name a couple of them. Treasure, there's money can be a component of investing in outreach. And then, of course, talents. And so there's different skills that are involved. So, of course, we want to be wise and faithful stewards. And so here's just a few questions. This is the time of year when a lot of churches are finalizing budgets for the new year. So here's just 3 questions I would suggest asking. Number 1, what percentage of your annual budget should support local outreach? What percentage should be allocated towards local outreach? And the rule of thumb that is often talked about in the business world, this is me speaking as an executive of a business here, is that 10% would be kind of like a solid budget for outreach type activities for promoting a business. And then if you wanted to be more aggressive in promoting the business, it would be maybe 15 or 20%. And then something like 5% would be more of a minimal type of promotion of the business. So that's a good question to ask. Number 2 and number 3, how much should support digital visibility? So I think this is an important category. How many different contacts is the church coming into contact with on a regular basis? And then the third one is, what about following up with those visitors? So what I have found is that it's one thing to make contact with somebody, but it's another thing to follow up with them. There's a few questions to get you thinking about financial stewardship as it relates to this. Now, why does digital presence matter? Well, first of all, it is a dominant modern public square. It's one of the main places in which people interact with each other. Many people check out a church online before they do so in person. And, for churches that don't yet own their own real estate or just don't own their own real estate at present, then it becomes even more important. Oftentimes search engines will filter out churches without strong signals that would increase their ranking. And then, of course, your website is oftentimes the only first impression you get in some cases. So there's a lot of reasons for churches to really prioritize their digital presence. Y'all are here, and so you already believe that on some level. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Putting on my ordained deacon hat in a PCA church as a deacon, I also know that like the church's facilities and building are important. So to think about the things that church leaders should be thinking about in terms of outreach, it's things like, what is your website and your online presence? What does your building look like? And then things like, as church leaders, of course, and this is really typically more the elders, like what is the worship service like? Is the worship service and is the structure of how things are organized on Sundays, is that something where uh, where visitors are kept in mind and all of that? So the digital presence of a church is one of those top three things in my mind. All right, go ahead and put a 3 in the chat if you're ready to go on to the next section. Then we're going to start getting into some nuts and bolts questions where you start thinking about your church website, your church's social media profile, and so forth. All right, very good. So we're going to look at 3 areas: visibility, online engagement, and then stewardship. So first of all, is your church easy to find online? So if people search for church near me, or if they search for something like Reformed church near me or Bible believing church near me, they do that search. Can they find you online? So definitely be honest. Be honest with yourself. And then with what people see in those search results, are they an accurate reflection of your church? Do they accurately reflect what your church is about? You know, did the photos, do you like the photos that you see in those search results? Is the information accurate? Does it list the accurate address of the church? Does it list the accurate worship times of the church? And we're not even talking about, people haven't even gotten to your website yet. They've just done a Google search. Another thing, are there recent reviews? Are there any reviews? Are there any negative reviews? And if so, has the church responded to those negative reviews? So those are all little details that as you start to add all those little details together, they can really add up to making a significant difference as people do a online search for a church. Is your Google profile complete? Has your church claimed your Google profile? Once a church has claimed the Google Maps profile, then they'll actually give you a score that indicates how complete the profile is. So, any questions on that? Or as I continue to go through this, just go ahead and type them into the chat and I'll try to address those. Let's go on to the next one. Digital engagement questions. So does your website clearly welcome visitors? Is it written more for people that already know what it means to be a confessional Presbyterian church or Reformed Baptist church or whatever the case may be? Or is the website really written to visitors that may be unfamiliar with the church? Does it help people understand what to expect when they choose to visit? Is it obvious to them how to take the next steps? I think another thing here that when people look at the website, does it give them basically a good feeling about the church? Is it orderly? Does the color scheme, the photos? Is it well organized? Is it easy to use? Those kind of things play into this as well. All right, and then stewardship. It's important for all of us, and of course for churches as well, to take stock of, is what we're doing, is what we're spending our time on, is it worthwhile? I think that's a very important question for all of us to be asking, and for churches to be asking, is that we have a limited number of dollars, we have a limited amount of time. Are we spending that time and that money and that energy on things that are actually helping people from the community actually find your church, actually getting the church on their radar, and then nurturing them so that they know how to take the next step, and then that they actually are taking those next steps to visit the church and then to get more involved in the church. Do you have a repeatable system? I'm more of a systematized kind of person, and other people aren't. And so there's different ways that this can look, but the idea is, what are the priorities? What's the drumbeat? What are the kind of things that again, that the church has identified as being a worthwhile investment of time and energy and money? And then can you distinguish between what's worthwhile and what's a waste of resources? So, in a church context, it can be kind of difficult to quantify this sometimes, but I think we can still ask the question, and it's a very important question to ask, to be able to discern between what's worthwhile and then what is a waste of resources. All right. So now we're starting to get down to some more nuts and bolts. So go ahead and type a 4 in the chat if you're ready to talk about your website and visibility of your church. All right. All right. So does your website reflect your theology? Does it reflect hospitality, right? That's one of the qualities of church elders. Timothy 3, right? Church leaders must be hospitable. Does your website reflect that as well? Welcoming strangers. Does it guide newcomers clearly as to the next steps? And the workbook, which I'll show you in just a few minutes, is going to get into even more detail on this. Here are some specific pages. So this would be a great list to compare to what you have on your website, your church's website. Here's a list of what a visitor-oriented site includes. A clear welcome. I think having a video welcome from the pastor is ideal. And have a welcome video. An I'm new page, or a what to expect, or plan a visit. Does your website have something like that is specifically oriented towards visitors? If your church website doesn't have a page like that, it needs to have something like that. Obviously, the worship times and directions, what to expect. That's kind of another way to frame the I'm new page. Leadership bios. This is crucial. This is one of the big things that people look at. They want to get a sense of who are the church leaders, what's their background. It's just in looking at the statistics from hundreds of church websites, their analytics, it's consistently one of the top pages that people look at is the leadership page. And then sermons. So this is a I often hear stories of pastors reporting that people came to their church website, they listened to some sermons. After hearing the sermons, and again, seeing that the site was, was hospitable and welcoming and giving people a clear welcome, then they ultimately decided to visit the church. Using authentic photos is definitely preferable, and have your real location, real ministries, real congregants. Of course, make sure that you get people to sign off on permission to use the photos. But there are lots of great stock images out there, but it really is best to use authentic photos. And then visitor next steps must be obvious. So a lot of churches will have a page called Plan Your Visit. They may even have a form where people can just list their name and email and phone number and maybe family members. And so that can be of great benefit to a church to have a little form that people can fill out to let you know that that they're planning to come. And then it can maybe be helpful for the purpose of, nursery workers or Sunday school, or there's different things that could be helpful for, I'm sure. Phone number, directions, contact form. And then it's also good to consider having pages like, what does it mean to become a Christian? What does it mean to become a church member? Those kinds of things can be very helpful. And I think a website can be helpful in communicating those things as well. All right, shifting gears a little bit. We've talked a little bit about this, but we'll get into a little bit more detail on this. So local search visibility, claiming the church's Google business profile is essential. Making sure that information is accurate, making sure the church is getting as many reviews on that Google business profile as possible. I was just talking to a pastor earlier today, and I was very proud of him because he's new at a church. And that was one of the first things he did is he said, we got to claim our Google business profile. And he said, hey, I want you all to go and leave a review. And I was very proud of him because that was a great thing to do, a great investment of time. It doesn't take a whole lot of time for people to do that, but it can really make a massive difference in terms of local search visibility. Another thing to really think about is search phrases. What kind of search phrases do you want your church to show up for? The more general you get, the harder it is to show up for. And of course, the more specific, the easier it is. But is it Reformed Church, Presbyterian Church, PCA Church, OPC Church? Maybe there's other things that people are searching for. We have tools, if you're a 5 More Talents customer, where we can look and see what people are already searching for and how many people are actually seeing your website and how high that rank is. So if you're already a 5 More Talents customer, then we can get you some specific data about your current ranking there. And then another thing, if all these other things are humming along smoothly, but even if the business profile isn't ranked as high as you would like it to be, another thing to consider is that you can actually make posts directly on the Google Maps profile. That's another thing to consider that could help boost the local visibility organically. All right. Type of 5, if you're ready to talk about follow-up. All right, follow-up is crucial. So as we all know, I think some people are, more nervous than others, but it's very common for when people are in a new environment that they're nervous. They need a lot of reassurance. And it's just a reality that for one reason or another, follow-up is really what makes the difference for many, many people. So it's crucial to have some sort of system in place for follow-up. I think a big thing is that it needs to be timely. And in order for it to be timely, it needs to be something that's very simple for you to do. It needs to be sustainable, consistent. I think a lot of times, if you have more of an introverted personality like I do, you might think that you don't want to bother people, but a lot of people, really, you really need to follow up with them maybe more times than you think you should, right? So maybe another word we could have here is persistent. That is, in fact, I was talking to another pastor. I guess this was maybe yesterday. I was really proud of him and his church because he said there, with the Facebook and Instagram ads that they've been running, they've been getting a lot of people contacting the church. And a lot of them have needed rides. So their deacons have been very helpful in following up with the people and giving them rides, and even the members of the church getting involved in that as well. So very important as you implement ways to increase the visibility of the church. Recognize you're going to get people that are sort of just testing the waters and to see what it's like, taking a little step of maybe just sending an email or a text message to the church. And then are you carving out time to be able to follow up with them in a way that is caring and timely and persistent? And do you have the right tools in place for that? Something else to keep up and follow up is that there's, and this is kind of very common for people to struggle, is like, what do you say? What do you do when you follow up? Obviously, asking questions is always a good thing. But maybe it's an invitation. Maybe it's checking in midweek. Maybe it's just saying thank you the same day. Maybe it's introducing them to some other person at the church, sharing a helpful resource from the church website, or just offering to answer questions. You all are pastors and church leaders, so you all probably should be given this part of the webinar workshop, but maybe there's something useful for you all in there. All right, we're coming to the home stretch of these slides, and then I'll just give you a quick run through of the workbook before we then have some time to do any live discussion questions for those who are interested. So go ahead and type a 6. You're ready to talk about the 4-part outreach action plan. This is about keeping things simple and what's worthwhile. Okay. So the 4-part outreach action plan. All right. So website goals, getting clarity on that, improving local visibility, inviting visitors, and then visitor follow-up. So this is trying to pull together all the different things. So number 1, the website is primarily for visitors. I think there's a secondary audience of the people of your church, people that are members. But going back to what we talked about earlier, you really need to look at your website as, what is the first time visitor see? And increasingly in our society and our culture, it's a person who is unchurched. It's a person who maybe hasn't been to church in a long time. And so is it clear? Is it welcoming? Is it visitor friendly? Is it, jargon free, right? Those are the kind of things. Does it give people a good feeling when they look at it? Do they think this church is orderly? This church is creative. This church is, knows how to put together a color scheme and so forth, right? Those sorts of things. It should leave people with a good feeling, and that that this church cares about their putting their best foot forward, right? It cares about doing things with excellence. The website is either going to communicate that to a first-time visitor or it doesn't. All right, then local visibility. So this needs to be a part of your outreach plan, is actually making sure that when people search, are doing online searches, that your website has the maximum chance of being found. What good is it to have a great website if nobody knows that it exists? So this needs to be part of it. And again, the workbook's going to get into more detail on this. And then building on that, outreach invitations. So this is where the power of social media comes in. And the reality is that the majority of people in your community are not searching for church near me. There's lots of people that are unchurched or dechurched, or they're just not Christians. They're lost people. They need to hear the gospel, and they're just not searching for a church near me. So in terms of an online outreach strategy, the only way that you can reasonably expect to reach them is via some sort of social media type strategy. So the point I'm trying to make here is how what is your strategy for making sure that your church is getting in front of those people in the community that are not typing in church near me today, or Reformed church near me, or whatever the case may be. So running video ads can be a really effective way to do this. Posting blog posts can also be an effective way to do this. Both of those can be really effective ways of leveraging the power of social media. And then finally, a follow-up system. We've talked about this, but there needs to be some sort of system. You can keep it simple, but what is the process to make sure that visitors feel known, welcomed, and shepherded, not forgotten? And there's tools that can be put into place that can help with this and ease the burden of church leaders as well. All right, so this has obviously been a high-level overview, and in a minute I'm going to show you the workbook, which gets into more details, and I'm just going to orient you to what's in that workbook. But if you want help implementing this, here are some next steps. So 5 More Talents has a number of solutions that can help make your website more focused on visitors. For example, we've worked with churches on video production. We've worked with churches on copywriting. We've worked with churches on implementing new designs. Local search visibility is something we can help with. We have tools that can assess what your current search visibility is and any problem areas, maybe any inconsistencies in the search profile of the church. And then, of course, outreach invitations. We can help with running video ads on Facebook and Instagram. We can help you implement a section on your website where you can post blog posts consistently. And then follow-up systems. One of the things we can do is we can help your church implement automated emails and text messages that go out, and that you can then see who's responding, and then you can have personal interactions with them as well. So there's a number of specific ways that we can help at 5 More Talents, and the way to engage with that in a one-on-one way is to schedule a outreach strategy session. And what you'll receive from that is a customized online outreach assessment for your church, along with a customized list of practical next steps. So if that's something that is of interest to you, then we'll put that in the chat window. Basically, go to go.5moretalents.com and you can schedule that one-on-one meeting where we can just really go into a lot greater depth onto that. So it's just go.5moretalents.com to schedule that meeting. All right, so let me show you now the workbook, and let me put a link to that again in the Zoom. And I'm just going to take a few minutes and just show you what's in here. Our team really labored extensively on putting this together, and I'm thankful for that. And so this is what you'll get in that link I just put in the Zoom. Let me make sure the settings on this are it's restricted. So let me actually make it so that anyone can view it. Okay, should be unrestricted now. But basically what this does is it gives you some metrics you might want to think about in terms of where you're at today with number of members, number of visitors, number of leaders, average attendance, some of the things that that churches commonly track anyway, and then end up, and reporting to presbyteries and at a denominational level. So this can be part of setting some goals. Here's maybe the second page is probably more helpful, which is, why is this important, right? So get some clarity on why is it important for your church to really focus on developing a robust ministry of outreach and evangelism in this season, right? Why is it important for the church to focus on a healthy outreach and evangelism ministry? And then here's some other ideas for metrics. It's similar things we went to in the slides: conversations, members, sermon publishing, different types of things. These are ideas, again, if they're helpful to give you some new ways to think about outreach in the new year, then mission accomplished from my perspective. This gives you some categories to think about in terms of budget, different categories for how to allocate budget. How much should go to online, how much should go to people, how much should go to digital, in-person events, for ongoing follow-up. All right, those are just some categories to consider. Now, this part, I hope it's going to be very, very helpful and practical to you, but this is really giving you a red, yellow, green self-assessment. So the first section relates to your website. The next category relates to engagement. Do visitors know who we are, who the church is? So this is really more, can people even find the church website online through a Google search or something like that? This is more focused on, well, once they see the website, what's that experience like? All right. The next section is follow-up. So what does that follow-up system look like? What's the tone of that follow-up? If you have church management system software, is it integrated with that? So that's another area to assess. So the visibility of the church, once people come across the website, are they getting a good impression of the church? And then once people actually contact the church, either by visiting or maybe just sending an email or a text message or a phone call, is there a follow-up system in place? These are three crucial ways that category is to assess. And then the next category relates to stewardship. Is there what tools and systems do you have in place to really assess what's worthwhile? So are you looking at the analytics that are being gathered on your website? All 5 More Talents customers have different analytics that are installed. So are you aware of what those things are saying? There's things that a Google Maps profile will tell you. So there's lots of different, we don't want to get bogged down in the data, but there are lots of tools that can help to assess, which activities are actually helping the church achieve its objectives. All right, and then this section is talking about specific questions related to the church website. Does it speak to a first-time visitor? Are the action steps simple? Does it display trust and credibility? All right, and then here's a list of the basics every church website needs. So this can be helpful to you in just comparing your website and your Google Maps profile and making sure that you have all of these pieces in place. If there's some that you don't have in place, then those are things that you might want to consider doing in the new year. All right, and then online reputation. This relates to the reviews that are being left on the Google Maps profile and on other online profiles. Are you even aware of what those reviews are? Are you responding to those? What about your social media profiles? So this is really meant to be it's a comprehensive list of questions that I hope can be helpful in just identifying some specific areas that are areas for growth for the outreach of your church in the new year. And then this is where you can summarize all of that in a one page, basically all on one page. So what I would recommend is you go through this checklist, you go through this list of questions, and then maybe go through it as a session or a group of church leaders, and just take an honest assessment, and then summarize that on this page, with 2 or 3 things: what needs to be improved about the website, what needs to be improved with the search visibility of the church, what things do you want to invite people to, and how are you going to do that? And then how are you going to ensure that visitors don't slip through the cracks? So these are what I believe are the 4 of the most important categories to think in. And then this is kind of a bonus page. Just what is your message to first-time visitors? It gives you some ideas here, but this would be the beginning. Is if one of the things you identified is that it seems like your church website is just not putting forth the welcome to the people of your community that you would like, then this can start that process. Be maybe worth talking with some folks from your church to get their thoughts on it as well. Maybe just interview people. Why did they choose to visit? That can be a great way to put this together. And that could be the beginnings of like rewriting the homepage of your church, putting together a what to expect page. That's the purpose of this. All right. And again, if you really want to go into detail on this on a one-on-one setting, then I recommend you go to go.5moretalents.com. This is where you can schedule that outreach discovery call that will start that process. What we'll do an online outreach assessment and give you our perspective on that as well. It's all free, and that would be a great next step if you're interested in learning more about what 5 More Talents can possibly do. So that, I think, is everything, with a couple of exceptions. Just want to highlight a couple of other resources. Number 1 is our new book, The Church Leader's Complete Guide to Online Outreach. So this is going to be published in paperback within a few weeks, Lord willing. But I'm going to include the link to it. It's a 210-page book, and it goes through all of this in a lot more detail than we could cover today. So if you're just thinking, man, I just wish there just wasn't enough detail, then this can be helpful to you. So just to kind of give you an idea here from the table of contents, this goes through, fundamentals, how to set up your church website, understanding SEO, how to optimize for keywords, Google Maps optimization, website conversion fundamentals, mobile optimization, social media ministry, video ministry, email ministry, paid advertising, Google Ads, Facebook, Instagram, how to track, measure, and evaluate, and next steps. So if you want a lot more details, then that's the resource for you. And you like to read books. So there you go. And hopefully we'll have some paperback copies of that we can actually send you that once they're ready. So the last thing I want to mention is the church outreach group. So this is a group that you can join, and it's free. And this is what it looks like. I have it up on the screen. I'll put the link to it. If you're not a member, I invite you to join. One of the things that excites me the most about the church outreach group is our classroom section. So we have courses on sermon publishing, promoting outreach events, local SEO, again, a lot more details, way more detail than I could go into today. Biblical evangelism today. I know some of you on this know about this group. This has been a wonderful group. We got need to get a couple more of the recordings on here. This has been a great resource of just what is that kind of personal evangelism and kind of offline evangelism look like, and then using Canva, and then a whole bunch of other things. Using AI to 10x the reach of your sermons. This is a really great one if you haven't seen this. If you think that writing or publishing blogs or videos could be of benefit or something you're interested in, definitely watch this by Carl Miller at Heritage Church in New Braunfels, Texas. What he's been able to put in place has really been simple but very effective for their church. I'll just say this: I forget the exact keyword, but I think it's something like characteristics of a godly man or something like that. If you search for that keyword, his blog post is literally the first thing that comes up. So what he's done is pretty simple, but it's actually proven to be very effective, and he breaks it down in this video. So something that you can join is something that other people from your church can join as well. If you can think of some people in your church that might be interested in learning about these things, and they can join as well. So I think that is all that I have prepared. So thank you all for coming. For those of you that are listening to the recording, I'm going to stop the recording. For those of you that are here in person, you get to actually stay if you want, and we can talk about some of these things. So thanks for coming today. Thanks for watching.